Yo, what's up? Bringing you that MLB 16 this show. In this series, we're going up against the Detroit Tigers, but we're going to be talking about our season goals. Before we get into that, I want to mention one more thing on how I plan to run this series. So, I mentioned in the last couple of videos where we talked about our roster and our plans that I will be playing all 162 games and be posting one game from each series. What I didn't mention is that I'm going to distribute my pitchers equally. So games 1 through 5, you'll see a different pitcher. Games 6 through 10, you'll see a different pitcher. Basically, every 5 games, it should be a different starting pitcher. And that's to bring variety to the series. Not just in the pitchers shown, but also in wins and losses. Some games will have a designated pitcher already in hand, and we'll use him, and whatever the result is, that's what's going to be posted up. So it brings a variety. Instead of me always posting wins, we'll have some losses in there and some tough games. But let's go into our season goals now. So obviously the number one goal is to make it to the postseason. You don't want to play 162 games and not make it into the postseason. And then the real goal is to win the World Series. We don't want to have it any other way. Make it to the postseason, make it to the World Series, win the World Series. Anything other than that will probably be a failure for this series. So in making it to the postseason, we want to win our division, and we're in a pretty good division. We have the Chicago Cubs, the St. Louis Cardinals, the Milwaukee Brewers, and Cincinnati Reds. I'm not going to count out the Brewers and Reds because maybe they have a good season, but you have to expect that the Cardinals and Cubs will be up there competing for the top spot in the division. So, like I said, the number one goal for that is to win the division. We don't want to be put into the wild card situation and be playing in a wild card game in the playoffs. That's a no-no. We got to come out and be the best team in the division and try to be the top team in the league. We want to have that home field advantage, so that goes in a different thing. We got to win the All-Star game for that, but we want home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Those are our main goals. Now we're going to talk about our side goals. So in our MLB 15 to show franchise was the Seattle Mariners. We finished 90 and 72. That's on the back of my mind, but I want to have a better record than 90 and 72. Granted, some of those games were simmed. I still want to have a better record than that. Real quick, look at this play right here. We have bases loaded, and we're going to pop it up. Now, I wasn't paying attention and didn't realize we already had 2 outs, but he ends up dropping the ball, and if we ran home, we could have scored some runs and probably changed the whole perspective of the game. My mistake. But back to the goals. Now this is probably the top of the line high-end goal, which we probably won't get. But I want to go after 116 wins. Why 116? That's the MLB record. Now I don't think it's possible. We'll have to play really consistent throughout the season for that to be done. But if we start off really good and midway through the season we might have a chance for it, we'll really push to try and get it. Like I said, it's a tough goal, probably unlikely, but it is something we will keep an eye on if we get close throughout the season. However, we do want to get 100 wins throughout the season, and that should be doable, and it might be necessary in the division we're in with the Chicago Cubs. But other than that, some individual awards we might be looking at are the MVP and the Cy Young. Now, I don't feel like I have a Cy Young candidate on my team. We have Garrett Cole, Francisco Liriano. Those might be the only 2. But so far, I don't know if we're capable of pulling that off. Looking at the MVP, we have Starling Marte, Andrew McCutchen. Now, McCutchen is a former MVP, so you would expect him to compete for that spot, but we're actually off to a really slow start with him. On the other hand, Starling Marte has been on fire. So if he can keep that consistency throughout the season, we might be looking at Marte for the MVP. Still, it's early on in the season. Anything can happen. These were our season goals. You can check the description to see how the rest of this series played out. It was a pretty difficult one for us. Thanks for watching, and I'm out.